On Saturday, November 2nd, starting at noon, Kevin Williams is helping sick kids by playing video games. He needs your help to raise $1,000 for the CHIO Foundation. Donate at extra-life.org/participants/347875. The following podcast may contain immature content created by Danny Parkhill and Michael Walsh. Listener discretion is strongly advised. No. You're absolutely right. Nobody is allowed to grow up. Nobody is allowed to mature. Nobody is allowed to be educated. You're absolutely right.
I'm not saying back. I am saying let's not go back to 1975.
Okay.
Where an elbow drop and a leg drop was the finish.
And
wrestling's evolved, sir.
And neither am I. But the problem is that I don't necessarily. But I'm saying it does not have to get more dangerous in order to get more exciting. You caught me in the middle of something, by the way.
Well, what I catch in the middle?
Impact Wrestling has taken over my house this weekend. I've just been trying to catch as many of their shows this weekend as I possibly can. They had a show last night. They're actually doing a show on Twitch right now as we speak, and Slammiversary is the night after we record this. So it's all Impact all the time over at Casa de Conta.
So you couldn't be bothered to stop what you were doing for 5 seconds to jump on this podcast with me. I'm without a co-host, okay? I'm on my own. I am fragile in my state, and I needed somebody to hold me tight, and you can't do it. Michael isn't here, and you couldn't be bothered to stop watching professional wrestling for 5 minutes to come over here and love me tenderly. I wish you loved me like you loved pro wrestling.
God, if I had a nickel every time somebody said that to me.
Word, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm half expecting my wife to one day, drop that speech on me. And, it's one of those things, man. I watch a lot of pro wrestling. I've said it before. I'm a pro wrestling so, it's kind of, it's tough. I cheat on my wife consistently with pro wrestling. I am the Missy Hyatt of podcasting, sir.
Well, I hope you have fun in there with Missy Hyatt.
Missy Hyatt. Oh, snap. How you doing, sir? I've missed you. It's been a little while since we've chatted.
Before we get into the pleasantries, can I tell you a story that relates to what you just said?
Yeah, sure, give her.
Okay, so back in the high school days, I was dating this girl, and I'll leave her name out this podcast because it's she didn't ask for that, so I won't do that.
All right, I probably know who it is. I'll leave it out too.
You probably know, and people listening to this podcast will probably know. But for those who don't know, you're not gonna know, so just deal with it, okay? I remember we were in some sort of heated argument about something, and I would just get really upset about this whole thing. And I remember she turned to me and she yelled, "Don't you dare try to cut a promo on me in the middle of this." And
that's brilliant. I've had my wife throw the word gimmick out there once in a while. I forget what we were fighting about, but she's like, "This whole stupid gimmick is nonsense." And I'm like, "Did you just drop science on me, ma'am?" Well,
at that point,
you can't be turning my language into an argument.
That is our word. You're not allowed to use.
That's our word.
Only
what do you mean, you people?
Only we can say it.
Only we can say that word. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed last week. And I'm not talking about you, Adam. I don't give a how you feel. But I hope you guys enjoyed last week having my wife on the show. I think she had a lot of fun. It was fun talking shop with her. We don't do it often enough. She's sitting in the other room eating chips as we speak, olives, and shaking her head as in no. We are not doing that again. But I hope I get her back someday.
Well, I hope put her on the phone with me because she needs to have a regular segment on your show. Seriously.
There you go.
Wait,
Adam says you need to have a regular segment on the show.
No, go get her. Go get her right now. Put her on the microphone.
You gotta come over here.
Put her on the mic.
Yeah, hold on, I'm putting you on the mic. Here,
put her on the mic.
Put you on speaker here. All right. Here. Hold on, wait, here, listen to this one so you don't get all... Yeah. Okay, go.
Stephanie,
Yes.
This is Adam.
This is Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Steph.
Yes.
Okay, you've gotta come up with a segment for the lasting mark every week. You were the best part of that show last week. You were the best part of this show ever. You need to come and be a permanent part of this podcast. Because seriously, you have a voice, and it is of the stressed out, tired, exhausted wrestling wife.
Angry.
Yes, and you need to be a part of this show. Like seriously. So
I'll do some thinking on it and see what I can contribute.
start thinking of a name for your segment, because that's the only thing you need to think about is merchandising for this, because we need you on the show.
I will. I'm sure I could put something together.
Yeah. You gotta figure something out.
I got a little free time now.
All right, go back to your olives.
I know. It's really delicious.
They're delicious. How about in today in jokes that only you and me will get, Satchel? How about you, Steph, and Kayla get it on, Adam?
What?
You are so high, Dan.
Oh man, good. But yeah, you know what? I would like to have a recurring segment with the wife. I do, seriously, and your wife is mad at me, sir, for getting my wife involved, because now she's convinced that she has no back. You know, she has no ground to stand on anymore for saying no to your podcasts, which I don't want to make Kayla feel bad. You know, that's not my game. You know. But that being said, you know, that should be a Patreon exclusive. Get Kayla and Steph to watch a match of our choosing.
Well, no, don't say that. You know damn well what match you're thinking of. So just say it on the podcast.
Okay. Samoa Joe versus Necro Butcher.
Yes, that's the match you're thinking of. Don't sit there and act dumb. Don't sit there and act like it's not something you guys talked about backstage at Chinlock over the weekend.
Samoa Joe versus Necro Butcher.
I would actually love a segment in which our wives sat down and watched something chosen by our patrons and gave their reactions to it. I think that would be a great segment.
My wife is in marketing, and she knows the value of $1. So if you guys are listening to the free version and you want to head over to patreon.ca/WrestleMedia.ca and throw a few in our bucket, we could definitely convince my wife to do that. I don't know about Kayla, but but we'll talk her into it for the promises of money. But throw some money in the bucket there, and we'll make that a Patreon show, man. We'll figure it out one way or the other. We'll make Kayla do it.
I've campaigned for Kayla to be on a podcast with me, the way other husbands campaign their wives for a threesome for their birthday.
Just do it once. Like, just look at it.
Just say something in the microphone. Just say something.
Oh, man. She'll do it with Steph. I'll get Steph to wear her down. That's it.
We're pretty pathetic listening to us talk about, like, all we want our wives to do together is just talk into microphones.
Most men want their wives to do something else, not us.
That's right.
we just want our wives to talk about professional wrestling on a microphone.
Oh boy, I think we've lost the audience now. Should we actually get into the actual show proper?
Start talking to wrestling. Yeah, we love our wives and stuff. Let's start talking about pro wrestling. Sir, did you catch Fyter Fest?
Well, wait a minute. Are we not going to do the introductions to find out who we're not?
Well, I haven't done the introductions in the longest time because I was alone. But yeah, okay. So I'm not Daniel Parkhill.
Oh, you're not?
Or what, do you want me to do the gimmick?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. God, now I'm on the spot. Kids, they listen to the rap music, which gives them the Daniel Parkhill.
I'm not Ponce.
Oh God, I love you. I called Adam a Ponce just before we got on the air here, and he had no idea what a Ponce was.
I don't know what I don't know what a Ponce is. I still don't.
It's a dumbass, sir. A leech off the living.
Now, where does this word come from?
It's British terminology.
Oh, it's like a slang. It's a slang thing.
Well, it's Shakespearean slang. It's like, "Oh, ye old Ponce, who doth protest thine marriage of Hamlet and your mother." I don't know, but it's old British slang.
It's like the same way if we were in England, I'd call you a.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovingly.
But like that's a thing. It's a term of endearment on there. Oh, okay. You see, now my wife is back, and she has given me the exact definition of Ponce. Ponce is a noun with two meanings. One is an effeminate man, and the second is a man who lives off a prostitute's earnings.
Okay, well,
I was wrong. Apparently, someone in your life, I don't know who, is what I said to you. So, sorry, I guess. I don't know. I've called you worse.
I think it's you. I think you're the prostitute in this case. You're the one trying to put together Patreon shows that I collect the money for.
There you are. That's right? Like, there you go. So now you're living off my, the $2 that I just made you. And there it is. I'm not going to lie to you, Adam. I am, like, 3 drinks deep right now. I was at the keg celebrating a family member just got a new job, so we were having a nice celebration there. I had a couple of drinks. Now I'm drinking a fine Kraken and cola. So,
well, that's very nice, but nobody threw me a party when I got my new job. Where's my party?
Well, I hate you, so there's a difference.
Oh, I see. All right, fine then. Go make me some money.
I'm not going to drive up to North Bay for that nonsense. You kidding me?
Well, go.
I don't like you that much.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying yourself tonight, at least.
Word, I am.
I feel like I messed up the introduction. Can we try it again?
Yeah. Here, let me try that again. Okay. See, now I gotta think of something else. Whoa. We're halfway there. Whoa. I'm not Adam Conta.
I'm not Ponce de Leon, but I am wearing his pants.
He's a Ponce's pants. Why couldn't Ponce have 3 lives like Mario? Okay, let's, for the love of God and all that's holy, can we talk about some wrestling? We've been like 12 minutes in, and we've mentioned AEW once. Can we just carry on? We know Mike isn't here. He's usually a lot more strict. We haven't talked to each other in like 2 weeks. I haven't friggin' gotten any of my jokes out.
All right,
there it is.
I just wanted to quickly shout that out for anybody who loves Clone High. If you don't get that joke, go seek out Clone High. It's amazing.
Yes, please do.
All right,
and these are Ponce's pants.
Yes.
So yes, sir. Did you see AEW Fyter Fest?
I saw highlights. I didn't watch the actual show as it happened, but I've seen all the big matches and I've seen all the big clips.
Okay, so why did you not see the show? Was there something else you were doing?
I think it was a timing issue because that was what, last weekend. Oh, I know why, because I was in Renfrew. I was at the live wrestling event, repping WrestleMedia live, baby.
Renfrew.
Ooh, careful now.
I can edit that out. I just wanted to pop you. Okay, say that part about you in Renfrew again.
I was live in Renfrew repping WrestleMedia.
Right on. How was that for Queen Street Entertainment? Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, right on. How was that for you?
That was awesome. I had a great time. Saw some fantastic talent. Got a great interview with Alexia Nicole, which is going to air over on Women Crush Wrestling. And a guy you're probably familiar with, James Stone, has agreed to come on the program. And if all goes well tomorrow after I record this, he'll be the next guest on the Wrestling Show this week.
Right on. Yeah, right on. That's good stuff.
It was awesome. So I missed out on Fyter Fest because I was repping the local indie scene.
Right on. Well, and we're going to talk about the local indie scene a little bit later in this very podcast, in this very ring. But,
right. But that's a guarantee.
It's a guarantee. There will be a title changing hands tonight. Austin, you will not walk away the WWF champion.
Someone's walking away with this belt and Ponce's pants.
Oh, man. And now I got to rewatch Clone High. So what did you think about the clips that you did see from Fyter Fest?
I think it was a pretty solid second effort from a wrestling standpoint and from a presentation standpoint. I don't necessarily know that I would call it a success, though.
Okay, why not?
because at the end of the night and the days and now weeks that have followed it, the only thing that people are talking about from this show, or at least the biggest thing that people are talking about from this show, is the chair shot that Cody Rhodes took. And they weren't talking about it in a positive way. And I think that but hold on, now listen to me. Whether or not you think it was brutal or not, because I know that you disagree with people about that, the fact of the matter is that the overall feeling coming out of Fyter Fest was a negative one, or at least the thing that people were talking about was a negative thing. And again, that's not taking away from the show itself. It was a great show, but I'm saying as a whole overall, if you're looking at it in terms of was it a success or not, when everyone's paying attention to like one of the few negatives that you can point to in the show, that's not a success in my books.
My counter argument to that would be taking away the chair shot itself, which I do want to talk about, but taking that away, my counter argument to that would be, again, AEW, how do I put this in the nicest way possible? AEW caters to smart mark fans that are very, very, very opinionated. Right or wrong, they're opinionated, right? And as are we, right? And a lot of these fans will take the negative parts of the show and highlight those over anything else positive that happened. I thought you were going to say, because I haven't read too much of the interwebs since the day of the show, but I thought you were going to say people were talking about the pre-show, because the pre-show was not fantastic. So I thought that would have been the talking point. But I mean, it goes for AEW, it goes for WWE, it goes for anything else out there. Anything negative, that will be the main thing that's talked about. It won't be, oh man, Jon Moxley and Joey Janela had a great hardcore match, or oh man, that the opener between Shima and Christopher Daniels was great. No, it was okay. The pre-show was ass, and there's that one chair shot which people disagree with. So I think the numbers are what we kind of need to look at here, and the numbers were very good for it from what I saw. In terms of pay-per-view buys, in terms of viewers, that kind of thing. Obviously, pay-per-view buys were, sort of downgraded since it was free in the United States, but you get the idea. All in all, a lot of people watched the show, and that's what they were going for. So I would call that a success, right? What AEW is trying to do right now is get eyes on their product, get eyes on who their main talent is, and start getting people hyped for their television show coming out in the fall, right? So I would call that a success, personally. But I can see where you're coming from as well.
I'm just saying that I disagree with you 100% on the idea that people in wrestling, fans especially, will focus on the negative. If anything, I think they want to focus on the positive of things when they see a show. And I've been to many a show and seen many a show in which there have been some really dog segments or matches, but the fact of the matter is that there were other matches or segments that were so good that they were able to overshadow them. And I just felt like, or I should say, it's clear that Fyter Fest didn't do that in this situation, because the chair shot was the thing that everybody was talking about. And while they may have had people with a lot of eyes on them, that might end up becoming a negative if the thing that they are focusing on and the thing that people saw was an incident that got them a lot of negative attention. The question, of course, at this point will be, will they be able to continue that momentum? Was it too much? Did it turn off the audience? Will there be people who go, I don't want to order this now, or I'm not going to continue with AEW because I think that's reckless and irresponsible? We'll have to wait and see, but I'll tell you, it couldn't have come at a worse time, because their next event that's coming up in a week's time, or I guess this weekend, as our listeners are hearing this, they've got competition. They've got WWE doing the Evolve show that same day, and that's going to be something that they're competing for that same audience. I think that puts them in a bad situation.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Keep in mind that, okay, so in terms of having competition next weekend, you're right, but anybody, like, there are people, for example, like I have the network, right? If I have the net, well, anybody who's going to watch this Evolve show is going to have the network. It's airing on the network, right? So you could just as easily watch that the day after, whenever, right? You don't necessarily, it's not, we're not in the day and age where, okay, Raw and Nitro are on at the same time now. I got to pick one or the other. People can easily watch AEW Saturday night and then watch Evolve the next day or whatever, right? That's that. So I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's as big a deal as you're making it sound.
Well, let me postulate it this way though. If somebody already has the network, it's already a cost built into their weekend, and there's only so many hours in a day that we're talking about here. You can't sit there and tell me that there aren't going to be consumers out there who say, I'm already paying my $10 a month. I don't really feel like plumping down another however many dollars the show is. Let's say 20. I don't know, and I'm sorry, I don't know. Let's say I don't feel like plunking down another $20 for a wrestling show when I've got one that interests me here on this network. I don't think there are going to be people that are going to subscribe to the network for this event per se, but I think what WWE is hoping to do with this counter programming is say, you've already got the network, we're going to give you a show, and we're not going to charge you any more for it, but to go over to those other guys, you're going to have to plunk down an extra X amount of dollars. It may, or the strategy might be, give network watchers a reason to watch their program and not spend any extra money on AEW.
And, okay, so that makes sense. I'll concede that point. I do think that, if again, there's a lot of the people that are going to buy this show already know of AEW, right? And I think they've already shown that a lot of people know of them with the views and the buys that they've had from their past 2-3 pay-per-views, right? So I think the people that are going to buy this show are the same people that would have bought the last few, right? I don't think they're, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, time will tell, but I don't think the numbers are drastically going to go down because of the Evolve show on the network necessarily. I think the people that are going to buy that show have already made their mind up. Again, maybe I'm wrong. I guess we'll see.
I think that there are some other factors to consider, though. For example, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because maybe I am, but Fyter Fest was free for viewers in the United States, was it not?
In the States, yes.
So AEW is presenting essentially their first show in the for United States viewers. That they're asking for money now. I don't know. Do you know what the price point is for Fight for the Fallen?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. But it's not their first step. It's not their first show for the U.S. audience, though. If you don't count All In.
No, I was going to say since Double or Nothing.
Yes,
so I didn't add that in. I'm sorry. So I meant to say it's their first. It's the first show that they're asking fans to pay for in the U.S. since Double or Nothing. So these are all statistics and numbers that have to be considered when looking at it, because I think that just looking at the fact that there will be some competition, that it's not going to be free for the largest segment of their audience, and the fact that there may be some negative press, or definitely has been some negative press coming out of Fyter Fest, I think those are all reasons that we could see a dip in those numbers. Now, I'm not saying that will happen. I hope that they do well. I really do. And honestly, I think if anything, it'll just be a minor bump in the road. The press, the chair shot in the press are going to be just a minor bump in the road. I still think that they're going to do very well with their audience, and I think their audience is going to stay loyal to them. But I do think that what it's going to do is I think it's going to make them take pause and say, we have to be a bit more careful about these things going forward. I mean, let's face it.
I hope you're wrong. I really hope you're wrong.
Here's the thing. I understand that you disagree, but you are in the minority. And at the end of the day,
I realize that.
And at the end of the day, right. AEW is trying to do the same thing that every other wrestling company is trying to do, which is make money. And they did something that they thought the audience was going to respond positively to. They were incorrect. They thought that the audience did not respond positively to it. And because of that, they're going to have to change course because of it. And they're going to have to say, ooh, okay, maybe, wrestling fan... Because here's the problem. If AEW says that they're going to cater to a sophisticated, smart fan, then they have to expect that a sophisticated, smart fan may have evolved since the days of the Attitude Era, where they think, yeah, you know what, concussions are a thing for us, and this is a thing that we're concerned about now. And if that's the case, they have to listen to their audience. So, although we were happy to delight in some of the acts of Joey Janela and Jon Moxley, certain stuff involving head injuries is not going to be as accepted by that crowd. Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today.
So okay, so let me pick your brain on that. So obviously you're not a fan of the chair shot, which is fine. Adam and I have been over this privately. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I didn't mind the whole chair shot so much. For those of you who didn't see it, Cody took a unprotected chair shot to the head, right, from Shawn Spears. And the internet kind of crowd, okay, CTE, and you know, you can't do that anymore. And I get that I'm in the minority, right? I fully realize that my opinion is not the popular opinion on this particular issue. You know, but I mean, like, people are comparing it, oh my god, he's going to turn into Chris Benoit. It's like, no, Chris Benoit, what happened to Chris Benoit? Because Chris Benoit landed on his head at least twice a night. You know, like, that's what happened to Chris Benoit. One chair shot, one unprotected chair shot, every once in a while is not going to cause you CTE, right? But again, that's sort of beating a dead horse. I'm in the minority with that one. I'm probably going to get, you know, hate mail or whatever about that nonsense. But now,
but the reason, the thing is, the objection to it is that one chair shot, one really good chair shot to the head, may not cause CTE, but it can still do some incredible damage. Any concussion, one concussion, can do some severe permanent damage to a person.
Oh, of course.
And
you're talking to a guy that's had 3, sir.
Okay, so maybe this explains why you're okay with them. But I'll. And I think it's just simply a matter of, when you look at it, I think that most wrestling fans say that it might not, but it might. And I'm going to say that as a guy who now works in financial security planning, in which you know, stuff like disability insurance and protection, financial protection against death, is a big part of what I do now. There's a saying that we have, which is you never need it until you need it. Until you really do need it. And it kind of applies in the same way here to chair shots, in this idea of, is it really worth that risk for a guy to, you know, could essentially lose their career over, you know, an angle or a really cool pop? You know what I mean? And I think that's what I know personally, speaking personally, that's my take on it, is I don't want to see these guys get hurt. I don't want to see these guys end up with some terrible side effects, regardless of how entertained by it I might be. I just can't justify the risk for it, because it is such an unknown factor. I think that's the biggest problem I have with it.
You know, again, that's fair enough, and I'm not going to sit here and try to argue your point, because I mean it's a sound point. You know, like it's not, you're not incorrect with what you're saying, right? Just put a hand up is all I'm saying. Just protect the guys. If you're going to do chair shots to the head, just add a risk reduction in there is all I'm asking for. If you're not going to avoid the risk, put your hands up and you know, I don't know which interview it was, but Raven once did a real great interview where he talked about how guys don't know how to take chair shots anymore, because you're not supposed to take them with your face. There's a way you can take a chair shot completely safely to the head, but nobody knows how to do it because it's kind of a lost art form. So that's kind of the thing that I would say. Now, that being said, I still wouldn't be, because again, I think that the best thing to do is eliminate the risk completely. However, if you're going to do that,
just try to make it a bit safer for the guys is all I'm saying.
And that's fair enough. Again, I'm not going to sit here and argue on it because well, you're making sense, right? I mean, it's not you're not incorrect in your point, and you know, I'm just to paraphrase Dave Chappelle, I'm just a man who loves chair shots. that's all I can say about it, you know. Any other notes from Fyter Fest you want to go over? How'd you like that hardcore match? How'd you like the main event, Moxley and Janela?
I mean, they delivered what people were expecting, did they not?
They did. I agree with you. I was happy with it.
Those guys are known for that extreme style, and they left it all out there in the ring. They really did give everything that they had, and they did everything that they could to set themselves apart and give the fans at the event a match worthy of the main event, and I think they were completely successful.
And I agree with that. So there's not much more to say about it. I do have one other question I want to pick your brain about. So one of the bigger spots, also in ironically in that same Cody versus Darby Allin match, was Darby Allin did his coffin drop spot. Basically jumped off the top rope towards Cody on the apron. Cody moves. And Darby Allin basically lands back first and spine first on the side of the apron. Looks like complete hell in terms of... It looks like he killed himself. So I want to get your opinion on that. You know, we're talking about chair shots and CTE and all that. That can't be good for your body. So what are your thoughts on spots like that put yourself at risk? Kota Ibushi is another guy that I can call out where, you know, dude lands on his head and neck every second spot. You know, how do you feel about stuff like that?
I know what when you say Kota Ibushi, you're talking about his match with Naito from I don't know if it was Dominion, their New Japan's last big show.
Yeah, that was
or
a big
Best
one.
of Super Juniors, something like that.
He's done it quite a few times before, but
yeah.
that is the match in particular I'm thinking of when I say that. He's not exactly nice to his neck.
I shook my head during that spot because again, it's needless. It's needless risk. It's not necessary, and I think it's just dangerous. And not even in a way in which they can protect themselves when it comes to their head and neck. The Darby Allin coffin drop, I feel, would be less dangerous because he is technically taking a flat bump as opposed to landing on his head or neck. However, the art of professional wrestling is making stuff look like it hurts when it doesn't.
Thank you.
And
that was my point with the whole thing.
But I don't think you can do that with a spot like that. I don't think it's possible to do that spot in where the secret is anything but I just take it and I just deal with the pain. And I don't necessarily... Now, look, I mean, it's his body, it's his choice, obviously, but I am not personally a big fan of those moves like that can't be done safely. You know, there's some stuff that people do, like the back body drops where they land flat, and they do it from an altitude that's not... You know, if they're picking them up from the ground and doing it on there, they're not really dropping from a far height. So looking at that, I can sit there and say, okay, they've taken as much precaution as they possibly can to protect themselves and do it in a way that may be, tough, but not necessarily dangerous. The coffin drop is from that height, that altitude, and for the margin of error involved with it, it was not something that I was happy to see.
It's a free fall, right? Like, because I mean, again, I see like people saying like, oh, okay, well, Matt Jackson took a Canadian Destroyer from Pentagon on the apron, at their last show there, whatever it was, Double or Nothing, and that was fine. And it's like, well,
no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Well, I disagree. Well, I mean, you could talk about whatever. Maybe you shouldn't be doing that spot, whatever, all the time, whatever. That's a different story. But he was protected, right? His head never hit the apron. If anyone was getting hurt on that, it was Pentagon hurting his ass.
Like I said,
right? This wasn't a guy jumping off the top turnbuckle, not just completely free falling back first.
I'll say that you could make the argument that it's a less dangerous move than the free fall, but again, anything involving a head and neck, I don't know. To me, that's too risky.
It's a worked pile driver,
right? But here, okay, Steve Austin.
Okay, no, you can't go.
Why not?
Talking about.
Why not?
Okay, no, because that's the case of someone expecting one move and getting another completely. Austin set himself up for a pile driver on the knees. Owen dropped to his ass.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Owen, in that case, and I don't talk Owen Hart, but that should have been a case of Owen protecting Steve a little bit more, bringing him up a little bit more. If Steve was 4 or 5 inches higher, wouldn't be a problem. Spot would go fine.
Okay.
If you're going to start talking about that one situation out of how many pile drivers or variations to pile drivers have there been in the last 20 years of pro wrestling? You know, how many times has Undertaker hurt someone with a tombstone? Once? Twice? How many times has P.D. Williams hurt someone with a Canadian Destroyer? How many times does AJ hurt someone with a Styles Clash? You want to talk about a simple bump? You know, he's hurt a few people with that move. It's not a difficult move. It just kind of happens. It's still pro wrestling.
I will give you all of that, and I will say one word that I think will make my point, which is draws.
Well, that's kind of my point too, though. Like, you can that was a simple. D'Lo Brown had done that move, that running power bomb, several times before. This one time, it happened to mess up a little bit. That can go. That's the same with pro wrestling in general. That has nothing to do with apron moves. That has nothing to do with anything. That's part of the risk that you take in pro wrestling, and I know for a fact that you know that. You get, like, how many times have I come close to getting dropped on the back of my head because I screwed up and didn't jump high enough, or whatever, I screwed something up. It happens. Fortunately, touch wood, I've never been hurt severely, but it's a risk. It's a risk that everybody takes.
You're right.
It doesn't happen often.
And you're right. It is a risk, and the risk for greater damage increases when you do a move like that, in which the head and neck, especially, are exposed or are at a greater risk of being exposed on an area that would lead to a greater risk of permanent damage, or in the case of somebody like, say, a Paraguay, which is not quite the same thing, but the point is, it was a simple move, death.
So you're saying we should ban power bombs? We're saying we should ban back body drops? That's what killed Mizala.
I'm saying
right?
that
we should ban suplexes?
I'm saying that what responsible professionals should do is try to eliminate as much risk as possible to protect the wrestlers that they're in there with. And I think that by taking a move that is already inherently dangerous, like a pile driver, and then adding an element of an unprotected area performing that move is reckless, and I think it's irresponsible.
Hey, Face, what did you want to use as your finish when you first started wrestling? Remind me.
When I was young and stupid? Yes, a pile driver.
Yeah, you're so full of
Okay.
Say goodbye to the freeloaders.
Okay,
Say goodbye to the freeloaders. Let's move on, because we're not going to
No. You're absolutely right. Nobody is allowed to grow up. Nobody is allowed to mature. Nobody is allowed to be educated. You're absolutely right.
I'm not saying back. I am saying let's not go back to 1975.
Okay.
Where an elbow drop and a leg drop was the finish.
And
wrestling's evolved. Sir.
Yes, and neither am I. But the problem is that I don't necessarily. But I'm saying it does not have to get more dangerous in order to get more exciting. Professional.
I don't. You see, this is where we're disagreeing, because I don't feel that it's gotten more dangerous. As a general rule, it has not gotten more dangerous.
Let me use an example. I'm going to use an example of the way professional wrestling has gotten better without getting more dangerous. All right, I'm going to take you back to 1997. Eric Bischoff brought in Lucha Libre and Cruiserweight Wrestling to WCW, and it was one of the highlights of their programming. Okay.
Let me tell you how wrestling has evolved over the past 20 years. In 1997...
Okay, wait a minute. But you're saying you don't want to go back to the 1970s. I'm saying you don't have to go back to the 1970s. I'm saying that there are ways to make wrestling exciting and continue to evolve the style of it without making it dangerous for the performers. And that's where I think...
That's bullshit, because you're going to start talking about Lucha Libre. You're going to tell me there's no inherent risk with Hurricane Ranas and head scissors and all that kind of shit.
There certainly is always...
With your logic.
There is always a risk, but that inherent risk is minimized because they are able to protect themselves with those moves. They're not out there increasing the risk by doing those things. Those are very...
Have you seen a Canadian Destroyer?
Yes, I have.
The entire move is a guy blocking his head. Like, you can't...
Yes.
That to me is safer than a Hurricane Run off the top rope. Frankensteiner.
True.
Whatever you want to call it.
I can understand I understand that's what you think, but I also would never take a move like that. I don't care if Petey Williams has done it 100 million times. I would never take a move like that. Because
are so full of shit.
Okay, first of all, you can't say I'm full of shit for that being my opinion.
No,
that's my opinion.
No, whatever, your opinion is fine. I'm saying, I can't believe this is a conversation. Here you are talking about, can't do the Canadian Destroyer because it's too dangerous. I don't care if Petey Williams has done it 20 million times. Never on an apron. Let
me ask you something. Do you think making a funny voice makes your opinion more valid? Because it does not. I want to make it clear to you that it does not. Because, you see, you've had 3 concussions, so I'm not sure that you quite grasp the situation here.
Hey, you know what those were off of? Back bumps.
Right.
Back bumps.
Yeah, okay, but that's because you're a wrestler, though, and you don't know how to take those bumps.
Exactly.
So, really what to decrease the risk to yourself and other wrestlers is you should quit the business is really what we're getting at.
Well, I did for 4 years, to be fair.
and the world was a better place for it.
There are much better reasons for me to quit the business than that, sir. Say goodbye to the freeloaders. I got to edit 40 minutes of this already for your ignorant ass. So I really don't want to edit more than I have to.
Okay.
I don't want to say the F word to edit more.
Go back in this and count how many times you swear compared to me, please.
Oh, I swore a lot.
Okay, so don't be throwing shade
not,
around here like you're a maple tree.
You got honestly, dude, I'm just saying I swear more for sure. I'll give you that. That's not an argument.
Okay, so why are you throwing heat on me for cursing?
I'm not throwing heat on you for cursing. I'm saying, in general, I don't want to edit more F words. I'm going to say more F words because I need to educate you. I need to drop science, sir.
I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the last 40 minutes for you to do that.
What a bitch. Say goodbye to the freeloaders.
Oh. Goodbye. This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything.